In lane 4, representing Diamond Valley, Monica Brennan. Nice start here. Burt off to a fantastic fly start, so too Whitaker. Brennan now starting to catch them though, so Whitaker's got the lead here.
Hi everyone, we've lucky enough to have Monica Brennan here, one of our Australian Olympic 400 metre runners. She's joined us for our Q&A, so thanks for joining us, Mon.
Thanks for having me.
It's always a pleasure. Look, I've been lucky enough to be treating Mon for about 2 years now, I think, and it has been my pleasure, there's no doubt about it. She's got some really amazing history. We're going to talk a little bit to her about, one, how she got into 400 metre and 200 metre running. We're also going to talk a little bit about, unfortunately, some of the injuries that she's gone through, which has not been ideal, but for a hands-on therapist, it's really, really important for you to learn from that, and also from an athlete's point of view. So, Mon, let's talk a little bit about your history. How did you get involved in, obviously, track and field and obviously the 200 metre?
I started when I was a young junior, like 5 years old, joining Little Aths, and just went through all the phases in Little Aths all the way through to seniors athletics, where you start at about 16, 17.
Yep. Yeah.
And then, I've gone all the way through, and when I was young, I was 100 and 200 metre sprinter, like purely, like wouldn't touch anything over 200 metres. And it was 2016, it would have been, where I made the step up to 400 metres. So,
okay.
Yeah, it was like a big change for me.
So I've got to ask why.
Yeah, what brought that on was, well, I suppose like as I got older, I was slowly phasing out the 100 metres.
Yep.
And it got to the point where I was kind of like done with all that 100.
Yep.
And I've always done 100s and 200s, like 2 events. So then I was like a solo 200 metre runner.
Yep.
And people started bringing up the 400, and I was against it. But then last year, or like leading into Rio, the 4x4 girls made the Olympic Games, like they'd pre-qualified, whereas the 4x1 team, which I'd originally been part of, hadn't. So I saw an opportunity. And,
great opportunity.
And that was enough incentive, making the Olympics, to make me step up and go for the 400. So that's what I did.
So like that, that's a massive ask to go from 2 to 4 in that short amount of time as well, and obviously to make it at that level. I mean, how did your body cope with the change from 2 to 4?
My body actually coped pretty well with the training. I mean, like my coach is quite smart, and we upped it gradually. Like I started off 200s, and then we went to 250s, 300s, and then 400s. It was more the shock mentally of running past where I normally finish, and then realising I'm only halfway through my race. Yeah. That was just, a big barrier for me to overcome. But I think I dealt with it pretty well. Oh, look, you did, there's no doubt about it. But there's obviously going to be that headspace, when you're running from 2 to 4 and you're like at 300, and I've still got another 100 in me. Yeah. How did you find that like last 100, usually that transition? Because that's usually a really pretty hard headspace. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'd always done 200s and like run it hard from the start, so I knew what lactic felt like, but I never knew what lactic felt like for like 15 seconds. And that was a shock in itself. I know every single time I finished a 400 metre race last season, I would be like, I'd finish, I'd fall on the floor, be heavy breathing, like almost sometimes in tears. And all the other girls are just walking around trying to shake my hand, and I'm like, please, I need space. You need to leave me alone.
Because you're arrogant, for sure.
Yeah, so it was just that mental battle of just, especially lining up on the start line and knowing that pain was coming. That was, it gets scary. It's amazing how much you can get scared from
that 300 metre mark is where you feel like you're just going up and down as opposed to actually going forward. And I know a lot of 400 metre runners always talk about that, and obviously that was obviously got to be a shock to your system going through that, oh my God, I'm going up and down as am I actually going forward.
Yeah, definitely a huge shock, but it's actually interesting because after a while I really started to enjoy the feeling that you get in that last 10 metres, and it's kind of like, yes, I made it, because there's so many points throughout the race where you think you're not going to make it. So it's got its own little rewards in that, and I started to really focus on the enjoyment that I got, or the satisfaction I got after completing a 400, and that sort of made me look forward to doing it again. If you focus on the pain, you'll never go back.
Absolutely. One of the things we should also mention, your dad's your coach as well, and has been for pretty much your entire...
My whole athletic career. He started off when I was 5. He would coach me up our driveway. we'd do little like 20-minute sprints
yeah.
up the driveway, and he'd be like giving me tips. He always tries and coaches all us
Yep.
kids. So yeah, that's how that started.
And you also come from a family of 10, don't you?
Yeah, I've got 9 brothers and sisters.
Wow, that's incredible.
So yeah, when I say he's always trying to coach us, he coaches like my brothers in football, in cricket, and always. So yeah, it's
fantastic.
in his nature.
Oh, I had the pleasure of meeting him too, and he's an absolute ripper. And what I just, what always amazes me about you, the fact that you really haven't had much injury history, apart from this, obviously this last sort of 12 months, but up until then, you've pretty well much been injury free.
Yeah, I think, and my dad's played a big role in that.
Massive, yeah.
If I wake up one morning and I feel like crap, I'll be like, Dad, I feel like crap. And he's like, we'll change the session or we'll move it to another time. Because we're always like living together. We can always adapt and stuff. But Dad's approach to training is very like short to long. So we focus on quality rather than quantity. And being a 100 and 200 metre runner, I could get away with that.
Yeah, definitely.
Stepping up to the 400, the quantity unfortunately had to increase. But yeah, I dealt pretty well with that. For a long time, my body held on, and then kind of.
All right, run us into Rio. Okay, so obviously, we got down to basically the last wire, if you like, in terms of being able to qualify for Rio, didn't you? Really.
Yeah. So how selections worked for the relays was they'd pick it absolutely last minute. So you had to kind of keep racing all throughout the time. So I started my season in about August, like October, and then I went all the way through until August, so that was a whole year, which in itself I hadn't ever gone that far before. I'd done a lot of international comps, but they'd be in June, July. So it was a very long season to begin with.
Because I remember you went to Japan that time, and because you ran well in Japan, didn't you? That was, and then I remember, well, not saying that you didn't run before that, but that was sort of like it tended to be the start of it all for you, wasn't it? In terms of that
Japan,
hitting those.
I went to May in Japan, and that was like the start of my international kind of competing. And then I came back and did some domestic, and then went back over and did some international. I'm not the best with traveling too, so it's a lot of traveling. I was very I was getting towards the end of, you can feel it when you're sort of getting towards the end of your season.
Okay. All right, so let's jettison to Rio, okay? I know after you left, you were running like a storm. You were just flying, and I remember speaking to your dad when you were in the pre-camp at Miami, wasn't it, I think? And he jetted us off back to Australia, and you were heading off to Rio, and he said, you're just flying, hitting PBs, and which was fantastic, obviously, going over to Rio. Tell us about Rio.
So we flew into Rio straight from our training camp in Florida. And we had I think 10 days before the 4x4 girls were due to race, so quite soon. Basically we flew in, it was like a 10-hour flight, and straight off the plane just into training too. And you're surrounded by the Olympians, you're at the training on the warm-up track, and the Olympic stadium's in the background, you can hear the gun going off. It's amazing. And it was so great to just train with, you're running, and then Mo Farah runs past, and or Usain Bolt's there, and that was really cool. Lots of training really fast. For me, I suppose my first Olympics, I was taking it all in.
Absolutely.
It was such an opportunity, and I felt a little bit of pressure. I mean, being on the 4x4 squad, not everyone gets to run. It's very high pressure there too.
Competitive,
First time, my coach, my dad, wasn't there with me, supporting me, and he knows me so well. So, I didn't really have, everything I needed there, and stress and lots of things kind of got to me, and I tore my hamstring 5 days out from the race. Which is my first ever injury.
That's the first hamstring, and it was a rare one too, wasn't it? Because the thing was, it was high, and it was biceps fem, so, and it didn't behave like your normal hamstring, because it was obviously a little bit, oh my god, I wasn't hit the ground, and oh my god, I'm in all sorts of pain. It was there was pain there, it was stopping you from running, and it wasn't until you got that MRI that it was actually confirmed that you had the biceps fem, wasn't it?
I mean, I was running and I felt like a pop, and because I'd never torn anything, I was like, well, that can't be good. But I mean, I thought I was okay, and I remember the couple of days later, I was like to my team, I was like, look guys, I'm running, it's cool, I'm fine. And then they made me get an MRI, and I saw the MRI, and there was a tear. And that's when I accepted it.
Yeah.
Before then, I really thought I could have still
In
run.
denial, absolutely,
Yeah, exactly.
for sure.
It's amazing what
Yeah.
your mind can say. Yeah.
So, character building moment.
Yeah, definitely.
Huge. And obviously being at the games, the girls obviously went on and ran well, didn't they, as well? Get back, obviously, to Australia, and obviously get through the rehab of the hamstring and so forth. Obviously takes its time. Obviously you heal like a gem, and you did, and then you get over that, and then what happens for you then?
Yeah, so I was basically, like, they told me it'd be 8 weeks until you're running, and I'm like, this is going to take ages, it's going to set me back so far. I was like dramatising it, and then I was 8 weeks post-injury, and I was like, look, I'm running, and I was literally like about to put my spikes on and sprint, and then my Achilles just got so like swollen, and I couldn't even walk on it one day. It was just after a session, and once again, I don't really know injuries that well. I was like, oh, I've got a bit of an inflamed Achilles, and then I tried to keep training on it for about 2 weeks, and then went to see someone about it, and got told it was Achilles tendonitis.
And then obviously developed into tendinopathy. So, and then we went through the to's and fro's and the roller coaster of tendon pain, which is, it is what it is. But you know, in not like, I'd have to say, you've dodged a wonderful bullet. You know, your rehab, coming back from there, doing the specific exercise, getting your treatment, all that sort of stuff. You're back and no tendon pain.
Yeah, it's been 9 months now. Which is now I know this is a long time, but 9 months, and I'm pain free, back to full on training. Like in my winter season now. So it's
and
good.
Pushing forward for Com Games for next year,
and Games tryouts coming up, so that's the big one.
And then
want to get it right.
And then obviously Tokyo after that, for sure.
Definitely Tokyo.
Mon, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome.